Hello chaps and chapesses, and this week we're going to talk about why you should go grayling fishing. So come 31st of October, quite often for many of us, that is the end of the trout season, and that is the end of fishing on the rivers, and we're hanging up our gear and already we're beginning to pine for the following season. Well, that shouldn't be the case. We have a fantastic species which is still in the river, which now is just coming into its prime time, and that is the grayling. Grayling are a wonderful game fishing species and one that has been overlooked for many years. In fact, actually in early parts of our chalk stream fishing history and other parts of the world they were persecuted, but thankfully no longer, and now they can become a prime target species during the colder winter months. For many of you, I know I am preaching to the converted, and this is another time for us to get out on the river. But for those of you who have not tried grayling fishing and as a way to keep fishing on through the off season, then I would highly recommend you try it, and I'm going to give you my 10 reasons why you should go grayling fishing. The first is obviously because we can carry on fishing. This is kind of vital for those of us who had this horrendous addiction. You know, the end of the trout season is not a reason to stop fishing, and we need an outlet and we need somewhere to go. So actually grayling provides the perfect target species for us to go and do that during these colder winter months. My second reason is the grayling is a wonderful game fish in its own right. Here is a species which actually comes into its prime time during the winter months. As the winter gets colder, they become more energetic, they shoal up, and you will often find great sport amongst the grayling. My third reason is they're actually a wild species. So unlike many of our rivers down here, which have got a combination of wild and stocked fish, the grayling are entirely wild. That makes them canny, clever, crafty, and certainly warrant our attention. To me, I find this extremely interesting. I love hunting species, especially species which are going to test me. My fourth reason is it's a whole new skill set. There's a whole new type of kind of fly fishing that we have to master to hunt this beautiful fish. Having flipped from our normal dry fly fishing that we are doing on the chalk streams, this is a time to perhaps perfect maybe lighter dry fly fishing, because they will take dry fly, and you are going to have to be particularly on your ball when it comes to drag and micro drag, and probably moving to fairly small fly sizes. But it also means you're going to move into different techniques, maybe fish the duo or New Zealand style. You'll end up learning how to fish with indicators, the dreaded indicator word, but actually it's a valid method and tactic when you are fishing in flat light. And then finally you're going to move into fishing things like French leaders and Euro nymphing, which is a whole different world and a whole different set of tackle and techniques for you to master. My fifth reason is it's not all about nymphing. A lot of people have this perception that if you're going to fish for grayling, then you're going to be hunkering down and shooting flies along the bottom. That's not always the case at all. Quite often during our winter days, you get clear days and you'll suddenly get a sporadic or a prolific hatch of olives or other such small insects, and the grayling will come up and they will take them. And that allows us to dry fly fish right the way through our winter. It can be extremely exciting. I think grayling can also get under your skin. Certainly this has been an interesting one for me. I was always far more of a trout fisherman, but as I have spent more and more time on the rivers, I've become increasingly passionate about this fish and this species, and they can be incredibly frustrating, and I find that a challenge, and I enjoy that challenge. A bit like permit fishing or some other species which you know that you could spend a very long time targeting one fish on your hands and knees, trying to get that fly in front of it and watching it literally move from side to side. It can be absolutely infuriating, but that is why I find it so exciting. You can spend an hour trying to catch one clever fish, and the big ones are very clever. My seventh reason is actually, as I touched on briefly, during the winter months and the colder water conditions. That is when grayling move into their peak condition, and that is when they begin to fight hard. During the summer months, quite often we catch grayling, sometimes by mistake, sometimes on purpose, but they are not particularly energetic in their fight normally, and that is because they are not really in their prime environment during the hot summer months. So once you push into the colder weather, these fish become far more sprightly, and actually landing one, certainly a bigger one, in a fast moving river can be really challenging. They've got that big dorsal fin, they can put it out a bit like a sail, and they can push right across the current and give you one hell of a battle. My eighth reason is they are an extremely discerning fish. The larger specimens can drive you up the wall. When you are fishing into a pod of grayling, then obviously there is some kind of pecking order, and quite often the bigger ones are at the front, so you can move in through the back of the school and you can start picking up some of the smaller ones who are normally pretty aggressive, pretty hungry, and they'll take flies readily. But once you get up into those bigger specimens up at the front of the schools, then you can be in for a real challenge, and those fish are very discerning. Much like the educated trout towards the end of the season, these larger grayling are already educated and remain educated. So you have to apply as much of your brain power as you can to hook one of these bigger fish. My ninth reason is actually a fairly fundamental one. You can fish for grayling on a lot of the chalk stream beats for a fraction of what it costs during the summer. A lot of the prime beats which you would normally be fishing for mayfly, which are costing hundreds of pounds, you can actually get onto some of these beats which are stunning still and fish for under £100 for a whole day. Now that is a wonderful use of time. You can get out on the river, get some fresh air and enjoy those winter months. My 10th reason is actually going grayling fishing during the winter is quite often an excuse to meet up with like-minded friends and to chat about fishing, to keep that passion going through the winter months while also targeting an extremely clever quarry. So if you'd like to spend some time on the river this winter, then please contact us. We have access to plenty of grayling fishing down here in the chalk stream valleys, and we'd be delighted to take you out and show you what this magnificent species is all about. If you would like to learn how we set up for grayling, then check out Alex's video, which you will find here, and that'll show you how we rig up. And in the meantime, as always, I hope you found this video useful. I look forward to seeing you on the water, and I'll catch up with you on the next one.